on this and a whole lot more with Dr. Ifoma Wokolo, she's the Assistant VP Research at Financial Derivatives Company. Dr. Wokolo, good morning. Welcome to the program. It looks like a mixed color when we dissect the components of Nigeria's inflation for the month of July.
Yeah, good morning, Ini. Thank you for having me. You're quite correct, because what we are seeing is there's a mix component. If you look at the headline inflation, many people will wonder, we are seeing inflation decline, yet the people are not feeling it. That is the irony. So what we are looking at, headline inflation, I always emphasize that when you are talking about headline inflation, it has to do with what inflation numbers were last year, July, and what it is today. That was in July, because the numbers we are looking at are for July. So if we are looking at it side by side, you see that prices last year, we say, are cheaper than this year. So that's why we are seeing a decline in price. And we look at both the food basket and the non-food basket, which you have highlighted earlier in it. If you look at the food and the non-food basket, the non-food basket, you see that, of course, telecom prices were increased last year, July. But this year, July, there was no increment. Then the price of FX, the exchange rate was stable. Yes, this year. The last year, we had an exchange rate trading between 1510 and 1520. But today, we are seeing exchange rates trading between 400 and 410. That was in July. That was for non-food basket. Then if you look at the food basket, the major food that drove staples that drove the decline in inflation, comparing last year July and this year July, is basically the price of rice. The price of rice was higher last year at 87,000 naira, and this year it was 65 in July. The price of gari was 32 last year, was 20 this year. Price of flour was 65 last year, and it's 54 this year. The price of beans was about 84,000 and it's 80,000 this year. Then the price of vegetable oil was 17,500. Then this year is 16,000. Then palm oil declined sharply from 11,000 to 9,000. So these are the things that brought prices, food inflation numbers down, which is headline inflation. But if we look at other sub-inflation indices, if we are looking at the other inflation sub-indices, you look at your month-on-month inflation, they all follow except for food inflation, which is a major driver of inflation in Nigeria, is still very, very high at 20%. We saw about 3% increment in food inflation from 17% to a whopping 20%. So it means that inflation is still lingering about. And what are the major factors of this food inflation? Why are we seeing food inflation still very, very high? There are several factors. We noticed that last month we had flood. Yes, we had flood issues. So it was the flood effect that led to this. And also we have the issue of food being trapped in food producing states. If you look at the month-on-month food inflation, you will see that some food producing states are still in negative. There's deflation. So meaning that the food produced in that state are trapped in that state because of logistics issue, because of the high cost of logistics, bringing them to the city. And if you look at insecurity cases too, you see that people find it difficult to even go to their farms. We're even expecting that food inflation will come lower because July is like in the beginning of harvest season, and August is the peak of harvest season. But with what we are seeing, I don't know what's going to happen in August. And coupled with the fact that if you look at Lagos too, I'm surprised to see Lagos had the second highest food inflation in the month of July. What does that tell you? It means that food prices are high. That is why even headline inflation is showing a decline. Food prices are high, still pinching very hard on the people. And coupled with what we are seeing in the global space, if the price of Brent is hitting $91 per barrel as at this morning, I tell you, PMS price, diesel price are likely to spike. And once this spike, it may even we may not feel the impact of the harvest season, because you need diesel, you need fuel to bring these commodities from the village, rural areas to the urban area. That's what is reflecting also in the rural and urban area inflation. You can see that inflation in rural area is declining, while in urban area is increasing. It's because of this disparity we are seeing. That is why we are seeing what we are seeing in the inflation number.
Yeah, it don't seem like so many things are against us at this time, because there we were getting scared that election spending, as we know, campaign begins tomorrow. Election spending will feed into inflation numbers, but already we have so many threats. As you noted, especially the difference between rural and urban inflation, and then you pointed to the direction of logistics and insecurity, and a lot of the food being trapped in the food producing states. So it's a whole lot that we need to deal with. Already we have majority opinion that Nigeria's inflation is a structural problem. Now we have election spending feeding into this. We have the global oil prices and the disruption at the Strait of Hormuz also feeding into this. I wonder what kind of Christmas we're going to have this year.
This year's Christmas, I wonder how it's going to be, because ordinarily during Christmas period we see prices high.
Yes.
So if all of these factors are put together, coupled with it's going to be a hit, honestly. You know, and election is going to be in January, I suppose.
Yes, January.
Yes, so, exactly. So Christmas is definitely going to come before this. In fact, before December. So that is why, and prices will be quite high, because importation costs will increase if prices of Brent keep going the way it's going. Because with what is happening, we are not seeing any memorandum of understanding or any peace talk coming forth. The Iran are adopting an offensive stance, and the US are threatening to bomb Oman. So the tension will persist, and if this tension persists, I'm telling you, prices of commodities will hit the roof. Coupled with the fact that the EU deforestation policy. So Nigeria is hitting us both from the left, from the right, and all over. If this happens, even the farmers, the local farmers will be affected. Not that only local, the economies will be affected, Nigeria in particular, because this cocoa is part of our major non-oil earnings. So our foreign export earnings is going to decline massively.
And you know, Dr. Nwokolo, so we see one factor that has come, the inflation number was stable naira, stable FX exchange. Do we see this getting threatened amidst all of this?
Well, if our export earnings begin to decline, there's a problem. There's a problem in the sense that we may not have enough buffer to even cushion the effect. To cushion the effect. So what we are going to see is, except if we maintain status quo, that is the MPC in their next meeting, because the way it is going, I'm sure the US is not ready to bring down rates. They are not ready, because once Brent price is above $85, a gallon of gasoline in the US hits $4 per gallon. So once that happens, it affects commodity prices, it affects so many other things. So the likelihood of them reducing rates is very, very slim. So except if, and I'm sure the CBN will also mirror that, because if we see that inflation is already declining and we try to maybe cut rates, that is where we are going to have major issues. We have major issues because we are going to see capital flight. Once we bring down rates and the US is maintaining status quo, there will be capital flight. But if that is maintained, I think we'll still have more of FPC Of course, we have seen that Nigeria, for the past 7 weeks, have been the best stock market ever because of I'll call it inflation. Interest rate differential is higher compared to some other countries. So I see that is why we see the edge. So if we maintain this, I think Naira will remain relatively stable. Yes.
All right. Well, we know Mr. Katoso, the CBN governor, is not in a hurry to cut from his body language and what he's been saying. So I guess we can mostly expect a hold even in the next meeting. But thank you so much, Dr. Ifeoma Nwokolo, Assistant VP Research at Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, Nigeria-China relations. Nigeria has been getting a lot of attention from China, I guess other parts of Africa too, but let's start from home. That conversation is next here on Business Morning. Please stay with us.